Today is July 12th, 2019, and yesterday we had a pretty interesting and funny comment on a tweet from the President, Donald Trump. I'll just go ahead and read it to you, and we'll kind of go through a little bit about what he's talking about here. He goes on to state, "I'm not a fan of Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, which are not money and whose value is highly volatile and based out of thin air. Unregulated crypto assets can facilitate unlawful behavior, including drug trade and other illegal activities." And he goes on to say, "Similarly, Facebook's Libra's virtual currency will have little standing or dependability. If Facebook or other companies want to become a bank, they must seek a new banking charter and become subject to all banking regulations, just like other banks, both national and international. We have only one real currency in the USA, and it is stronger than ever, both dependable and reliable. It is by far the most dominant currency anywhere in the world and will always stay that way. It's called the United States dollar." This whole thing is just loaded with BS here. We all know that that fiat currency is counterfeited all the time, used for all kinds of illegal and illicit activities. I mean, just look at this picture of counterfeited cash, illegal cash seized. I mean, these pictures just go on and on. Gold standard was taken away, where it was illegal to own more than 1 ounce of gold as a U.S. citizen, and the fact that we've moved off of the gold standard, there is no silver certificate dollar bills anymore, where you can't trade in your U.S. dollar, your fiat dollar, for gold or silver. Now it's just IOUs to the Federal Reserve that we get charged at an interest. And let's see here. So moving on to the banking part of this. Well, I would assume that Facebook is probably going to start looking into some banking practices, just like Apple. And let's see here. So it's really only a matter of time. Yes, they probably are coming out. They probably are gonna go along with some banking regulations, and I feel like this really here is a call. As it says, unregulated crypto assets can facilitate unlawful behavior, but what about regulated crypto assets? And we'll move on to Ripple. I'm a big fan of Ripple and their software, what they have to offer. I'm really into XRP as well. But seeing that the Federal Reserve Faster Payments Task Force gives Ripple a vote of confidence of the next generation of global payments, that was an article from 2017. So this article is from Ethereum World News, and the title states, "It is hard to ignore Ripple when the White House, World Bank, Federal Reserve, IMF, and central banks are involved." And this article came out on April 2nd of 2019. And basically, I guess this what he's got to say here in this first statement is a little off. Their primary aim of Ripple is not to replace SWIFT. It's actually to help enable their systems and make them work more efficiently. But we'll get down to here. The World Bank is optimistic about the impact XRapid has to make in improving the global remittance ecosystem due to the fast transaction time and reduced cost involved. And if you want to see the link, I'll just pull this page up real quick. DLT-based cross-border payments potentially offer a promising pathway to dramatic improvements in the lives of millions of people in emerging economies. Distributed ledger technology could improve the traceability of remittances and reduce compliance costs for MTOs and supply chain payments, stimulating economic activity in destination countries. Remittances are more expensive, precisely in the corridors where they are most needed. Sub-Saharan Africa remains the most expensive region to send money to, with an 8.97% average interest cost. Cross-border payment innovations can help reduce operational costs for remittance service providers. Blockchain is changing the remittance business, and Ripple is leading that revolution. So, this is the World Bank here. In 2018, Ripple, a fintech company, piloted XRapid, a distributed ledger technology-based cross-border payment solution along the very competitive U.S.-Mexico corridor. Financial institutions involved in the pilot saved 40 to 70% in foreign exchange costs, and the average payment time was just over 2 minutes. The transfer of funds on XRapid took 2 to 3 seconds, with most of the processing time explained by domestic payment rails and intermediary digital asset exchanges. So here's Corey Johnson. He was the chief market strategist for Ripple, which he had just stepped down as, or was just relieved of his position within the last few months here. Corey Johnson revealed that the White House is currently researching crypto, and the Trump administration has been impressed by the features of Ripple and its products. Johnson admitted that Ripple is in constant talks with Washington and also met with regulators and politicians regarding the best way to regulate the crypto space. When you look at XRP, there's no mining, so from a foreign control aspect or from an environmental aspect, XRP is a very different beast. And in conversations we've had with the administration, they seem to get that and think that might matter. Well, of course, because if the White House is getting concerned with China's taking over the mining, China's Bitcoin dominance is worrying Trump's White House and pushing it toward Ripple. So this is just another article. This one came out in October of 2018. So here the article says, China is by some distance the undisputed world leader in Bitcoin mining. The Chinese mining pool is controlling more than 70% of Bitcoin's network's collective hash rate, the measuring unit of the processing power of the Bitcoin network. Now it appears that U.S. President Donald Trump's White House is also worrying about China's Bitcoin dominance, with a Ripple Labs executive suggesting the U.S. administration is interested in Ripple XRP adoption to offset China's Bitcoin strength. The White House in particular seems to be thinking about what it means to have 80% or 70% of Bitcoin mining taking place in China, and a majority of Ether mining taking place in China, and the majority of Ether mining taking place in China. Ripple Labs chief strategist Corey Johnson said in a ranging interview with crypto-focused magazine Breaker. China manufactures most of the world's Bitcoin and cryptocurrency mining equipment, and its massive mining farms are supported by the country's cheap electricity. Meanwhile, Ripple Labs controls 60% of Ripple supply, leading to the critics of the company and the digital token, suggesting it's not decentralized like many other cryptocurrencies. Many are excited by Ripple's practical use case, which has seen it work with many of the world's biggest banks and financial service companies to bring cryptocurrency's speed and efficiency to a rather clunky legacy financial system. When I started to meet with people in the government and regulators, I had very low expectations, Corey Johnson added. I had been truly amazed at the open-mindedness, number one, and number two, the smart questions, sometimes even tough questions, that clearly a lot of homework is going on from the government side. So that's all pretty great news right there. This article has brought out quite a bit of people from the woodwork here. Justin's son of Tron being one of them. Says, Mr. President, you are misled by fake news. Bitcoin and blockchain happens to be one of the best chances for the U.S. I'd love to invite you to have lunch with the crypto leaders along with Warren Buffett on July 25th. I guarantee you after this lunch, no one will know crypto more than you. And then Coinbase's CEO, Brian Armstrong, achievement unlocked. I dreamt about a sitting U.S. president needing to respond to growing cryptocurrency usage years ago. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. He said, we just made step 3, y'all. John McAfee from the McAfee antivirus, he came out and he had something intelligible to say. I mean, this just stirred up the whole community here with this comment. So people are thinking that this comment from Trump was in light of the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell testifying about the state of the economy. And I'm just going to play the first couple seconds of this clip from C-SPAN, and I'll put a link in the description below if you would like to hear the whole his whole testimony.
For the second day this week, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell was on Capitol Hill to testify on monetary policy and the U.S. economic outlook. At this Senate banking hearing, he told committee members that economic growth was being affected by global concerns over trade, tariffs, and low business investment. He was also asked about Facebook's cryptocurrency proposal and wage stagnation, among other topics. This is 2 hours and 15 minutes.
And then what is really funny to me is the fact that old Donnie came out with this statement on the 11th of July. Says, in the third part of his tweet here, it says, we have only one real currency in the United States and it is stronger than ever, both dependable and reliable. The very following day, the Wall Street Journal came out with this article. Steve Mnuchin says, Treasury could run out of cash in early September. Before Congress returns from its August recess and urge lawmakers to raise the federal borrowing limit before they leave town at the end of the month. Which I find to be just quite ironic. I find that to be quite hilarious. These are some of the partnerships and banks and payment providing services that are partners with Ripple at the moment. So if there is any one regulated cryptocurrency that'll be used, I would assuming makes an ass out of you and me, that it'll be XRP. XRP is going to be on the back end of almost every single payment providing service.